Hi guys, welcome to the Saucy Chefs channel today. So, today I'm going to show you how to make a homemade pasta dish. So it's going to be prawn ravioli in a tarragon cream sauce. It really is delicious. I know making your own pasta can be a little bit fiddly, but honestly it's well worth the effort. It turns out so well this. It's an easy recipe anyway. The hard work actually is rolling it out as thin as you need it. I actually don't have a pasta machine yet, but it's on my list of next purchases. So anyway, I'll talk you through the whole process, and honestly give it a try guys, it is so delicious. Okay, so first of all what you'll need, I've got here in this bowl 200 grams of plain flour and a teaspoon of salt. For the pasta itself you'll need a tablespoon of olive oil and 2 eggs. So we're going to mix those together. You'll also need some extra flour for rolling and dusting. For the filling for the pasta, I've got here 100 grams of raw prawns, ready shelled. And in here is a clove of chopped garlic, half a teaspoon of salt and a sprinkling of sugar. Okay, and I'm going to use a herb mill to blend it together today. If you haven't got one, you can use a blender. It's just this is a lot easier with it being a small quantity. So we're going to mix the prawn, garlic, salt and sugar with half an egg white and about an ounce of butter, and it makes a great filling. Okay, and for the sauce we're going to need a clove of garlic, another ounce of butter, 2 tablespoons of white wine, 200 millilitres of cooking cream, and a teaspoon of tarragon and a teaspoon of mustard, and obviously we're going to season that to taste. Alright, so first of all we're going to start with the pasta. So like I've said, there's a teaspoon of salt in this flour here. I'm going to sprinkle on the olive oil and just give that a bit of a mix. This is such an easy recipe and so versatile. You can make spaghetti with it, lasagna with it, anything. Really easy. And then we're going to make a well in the centre into which we pour the 2 eggs. And then using this, I'm just going to stir it around like this to get the flour to absorb into the eggs. Okay. So what you want is a smooth, firm, pliable dough, not too sticky, not too hard. If you need to add, if your eggs are particularly large and you need to add a little bit more flour, then by all means do. It really doesn't affect the consistency at all. Okay, and this is when you need to start getting your hands in. So that's sort of mixed in, but now we've got to work it to make the egg absorb the rest of the flour. So literally like this, in sort of gathering motions, like so. So what you want to end up with is a clean bowl and a firm ball of dough. So I'll just keep working this guys, and I'll show it to you in a couple of minutes when I finish kneading it. Okay guys, so I've been kneading this for about 5 minutes, and as you can see we've got a nice, shiny, firm, pliable dough. And what we need to do is let that rest. You do need to knead it for 5 minutes as well to work the gluten in the flour. But we're going to cover it in the bowl, and it needs to be set aside to rest for about half an hour. So whilst that's happening, I'll show you how we make the filling. Okay, so in my little herb mill here, I'm going to put in the prawns first of all, that have half a teaspoon of salt and a sprinkling of sugar, together with a clove of garlic that's been chopped. And we add half an egg white to help bind it together. And we also add about an ounce of butter, like so. And then when we blend it, you don't have to have it completely smooth. In fact, it's quite nice to have a little bit of a texture to it. Just give it a whisk for a moment. Let me take a look at that. Just another quick whiz.
It
it makes such a delicious filling, this really. And it's quite nice, like I said, to have a little bit of texture with it as well. So here we go. Now that's perfect. Can you see? There's a little bit of texture still in there. It's not a completely smooth paste, and that's what we want. And the butter is a great addition. It just adds a real succulence to the filling when you're eating it. Obviously so delicious, this really. So we put that to one side for a moment, and then we can actually start to prepare the sauce. So I'll see you in one moment. Okay guys, so for the sauce I have a saucepan here already coming up to heat, to which we add the butter. So like I said, about 25 grams or an ounce of butter. And into the butter we put the garlic. And we just start to mix that together. Okay, so the butter is virtually melted here now. We don't want to brown the garlic either or burn it, so just be careful. It just needs to be sautéed in the butter for a moment or two. And then we add the 2 tablespoons of white wine. And for this pasta I'm going to use a 3-inch cutting ring, like this. And I'll show you how we cut it and work it afterwards. But if you've got one of those handy, that would be great. Okay, so what we want is the alcohol to burn off the wine. Okay, so we now add the tarragon. If you can get fresh, great. If you can't, you can use dried. Much better with fresh, of course. But in these difficult times, we can't always get what we want. Okay. And then to this we add a teaspoon of mustard. And that's all blending together nicely, you can see. It's a perfectly delicate flavoured sauce to go with the prawn filling. We don't put any herbs in the prawn filling because I don't want to create a strange taste together with the tarragon. So we're now going to add the 200 millilitres of cream. So this is single cream or cooking cream. And then some salt and pepper to taste. Like so. A little bit of pepper too. Okay. And then we take another look at the sauce. You don't need to thicken this with anything. You do not want to have a sort of very thick sauce with this pasta, so it's just a lovely consistency, if you can see there. And I'm just going to test it for seasoning now. A little bit more salt. So just let that cream come up to heat. And that's actually your sauce done then, okay? So what I'm going to do, we've got to wait a bit longer for the pasta to rest. So after 30 minutes I'll come back to you and then we'll go through the pasta process. So that's everything ready. All we need to do now is put it all together, so it's not too difficult. Alright, I'll see you a little bit later. Okay guys, so the pasta has now been covered and resting for about half an hour. So what I'm going to do is cut it in half and do it in 2 separate lots because it makes it easier to deal with. Because the key is rolling this out as thin as possible. You need to put it onto a floured board and start rolling. like so. And we get this as thin as we possibly can. That's why it's a lot better if you do have a pasta machine. But we'll get this as thin as we possibly can. So I'll continue rolling and I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Okay guys, so you can see I've rolled it out as thin as I can possibly get it. Don't go over the top because it's got to be strong enough to hold the filling. And what you'll need is a little cup of water. And we start with the pasta cutter. This recipe is enough for 2 people, so you should get between 10 and 12 little, what's the word, ravioli parcels with it, yeah. So, here we go. Okay, so the next step is you get one of these in your hand, like so. Just get a little brush and dampen the edges with a bit of water. This is to make sure we get a good seal on each little parcel, because the last thing you want is it coming open when it's being boiled. So a little bit of water, and then about a teaspoon of the filling, like so. And then what we do is we just bring the edges together and press firmly, like that, making sure it's properly sealed. And you'll need to have a floured plate to put the little raviolis on so that they don't stick. It's important to do that. So I'll just show you a couple more. Quite an easy process. A little bit fiddly, I know, but once you get used to it, it's fine. About a teaspoon of the filling, and then you just bring the edges together like so and make sure the edges are sealed. I'll show you one more and then it gives you a good idea, and then I'll come back to you when I've finished doing all of them. In the meantime, you need to get yourself a pan of water with some salt and bring it to the boil, ready to cook the pasta in. Because don't forget, we've already made the sauce, so as soon as this is done, we're ready to go. So there we go. We press this around the edges like that. And here we have perfect little ravioli. So I'll finish off the rest and I'll come back to you in a minute or two. Don't forget to get your water boiling. Okay guys, so here they are, all finished. Perfect little raviolis. I've actually made 14. It does vary a little bit depending on how thin you roll your pasta out, and I've got a little bit of pasta spare, but we can use that for something, no problem. So, pan of boiling water with a little bit of salt in, and we just drop them in, one by one, keeping the heat quite high, because as each one goes in, it brings the temperature down, like so. And like I said, this is about enough for 2 people, 3 maybe if you've got a little one with you. Okay. And they need to cook only really for about 5, 6, 7 minutes, just to make sure the filling is properly cooked through. So I'm going to put the lid back on this pan. What you need to have ready is a plate with some kitchen paper on, just to drain them before we put them into a serving bowl. And today I'm going to garnish with a little bit of parmesan and chopped chives. You can garnish with anything, watercress, rocket, whatever. Honestly, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so I'll see you in a sec. Hi guys, so the pasta's in the boiling water. It's been in there for about 5 minutes. I've put the sauce back onto heat now, so on a gentle heat, so that it's nice and hot when we pour it over the pasta. So they're looking great. So let me see. We'll turn them onto this paper just to drain the water off, like so. Not one of them split, which is good news. It is important to get a good seal on them, guys. Okay, just let that drain the water for a little minute. And then we'll start plating it up. So today I've made about 14, so we'll put 7 in the first bowl. we go. And just check that the sauce is hot enough. A little taste of this. Use just a little bit more heat to it. And like I said, today I'm going to garnish it with parmesan and chives. The Italians actually always say that you never put parmesan with seafood, but I actually think it goes quite well. So it's completely up to you. Yeah, this needs to come up to heat a little more, I'll see in a sec. Okay, so it's the sauce has come up to heat now, so I'm just going to spoon it over this delicious pasta. Like so. And then we're going to garnish it with a little bit of the parmesan and chives. And I think I'm actually going to taste this and show you what they look like inside. 1 second, guys. So can you see how that looks? All beautifully cooked inside. The pasta's nice and soft. I'm just going to have a taste of this together with the sauce. That's absolutely yummy. So, there you have it, guys. Prawn ravioli in a tarragon cream sauce. If you've enjoyed watching my video today, please like and share and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you very soon.